The Pixel 6a has to be one of the most heavily anticipated, heavily scrutinized, and polarizing smartphones of 2022. This phone was heavily anticipated because we all knew it was going to be a budget device coming in at around $500, but with a flagship processor, the Google Tensor chipset. When the embargo for this phone was lifted, this phone was heavily scrutinized for only having a 60Hz panel. And I mean heavily scrutinized. Like 60Hz and condoms were trending on Twitter for 3 days straight. I'm not sure why condoms were trending, but always make sure you wrap it up. So what are my thoughts on the Pixel 6a only coming with a 60Hz panel, you ask? We'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But what is it about the Pixel 6a that makes it such a polarizing option? Well, this phone's camera comes with the exact same main sensor that was found on the Pixel 2 XL. With all of that being said though, after having used the Pixel 6a for 72 hours straight now, I have a lot of thoughts. So let's get right into it. How's it going, everyone? My name is RJ and this is the Pixel 6a. I will be making a day in the life video with this phone, so I'll take you through my entire day with this phone. We'll dissect the battery life, the cameras, and of course the controversial display all in real time. So if you want to stick around to that upcoming video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and of course while you're at it, leave a like on this video if you do find this video informative. Starting off with the design. This phone's got a 6.1-inch flat OLED display with thin uniform bezels all around. It's sporting an 83% screen to body ratio with a hole punch cutout for the front-facing camera. Now, upon initial release, there was a lot of confusion on the type of back the Pixel 6a was using. Just to clarify, this is not a plastic back, it's actually a polycarbonate back that does feel like glass to the touch. Honestly, I love the size of this phone, coming in at 6.1 inches. I feel like this is the ideal size for the average user. I mean, it's not too big where it's impossible to use the phone with one hand, but at the same time, it's not too small where you feel like you need a bigger display for better visibility or to consume content on. If you do watch my videos often, then you already know that I'm not a big fan of big smartphones. That's primarily the reason why I daily drive an iPhone 13 mini. Something about the convenience of carrying a lighter, smaller, pocketable phone is so appealing to me. So if you're on the fence about buying this phone and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I need a bigger phone, I'm here to tell you that 6.1 inches is the ideal size for about 99% of people out there. If you don't believe me, just ask your girlfriend. When it comes to biometrics, the Pixel 6a is embedded with an optical fingerprint scanner. I'm pretty sure you've all heard about the issues with the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. It did initially have a pretty bad fingerprint scanner, but eventually Google did roll out updates and they fixed the fingerprint scanner to a point now where it's totally reliable. With that being said though, the fingerprint scanner on the Pixel 6a is good, but it's not great. You'll still need to hold your thumb down on the scanner for at least half a second before the phone does unlock. And there have been times where the fingerprint scanner totally does not recognize my fingerprint. At times I do need to double or triple attempt to get into my phone. I did also increase touch sensitivity in settings, and even with that turned on, I'm still experiencing some fingerprint issues. So that is something to keep an eye on. Now, we gotta talk about the juicy, controversial topic plaguing this device, the display. More specifically, the 60Hz refresh rate found on this phone. People on Twitter were going absolutely nuts that the Pixel 6a only came with a 60Hz refresh rate. That means the display refreshes 60 times per second. There were people on Twitter telling me that their $200 Android phone came with 120Hz. So there's absolutely no excuse that the Pixel 6a should come with 60Hz, since, you know, this is a $450 phone. While all of that may be true, you do have to keep in mind that this is a Pixel device, meaning that this is a phone made by Google. If you've never used a Pixel device before, let me be the first to tell you that the software found on this phone is so well optimized for performance, to the point where 60Hz on a Pixel device isn't all that noticeable. Like, take it from me, I'm a tech guy and I've gone through the Pixel 6, the Pixel 6 Pro, and now the Pixel 6a. On Twitter, I ran a poll and I asked people, do you feel like the Pixel 6a should have come with a 120Hz refresh rate? Out of 1,561 votes, 52% of the people voted that the Pixel 6a should have come with a 90Hz refresh rate panel. And to that I say, after having used both the Pixel 6, which does come with a 90Hz panel, and the Pixel 6a, which comes with a 60Hz panel, the extra 60Hz is honestly negligible, because I, for the life of me, cannot tell the difference between 90Hz and 60Hz. Now, when you're comparing 120Hz and 60Hz, yes, there is a noticeable difference. But at the same time, it's sort of unrealistic to ask for a Pixel phone in this price range to come with 120Hz. Yes, your Xiaomi phone or whatnot does come with 120Hz, but it also runs one of the worst operating systems found on on a phone. So it really doesn't matter if your $200 Android phone comes with 120Hz or not. It's still going to be a jittery, buggy mess. But yeah, after having used 60Hz on the Pixel 6a, it's not choppy. In fact, I would say it's super smooth. Like, I have no issues scrolling on Google Chrome with this. I have no issues scrolling through Twitter on this. I have no issues scrolling through Instagram on this. I have no issues with this display being only 60Hz. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 6.1-inch OLED display with a 2400 by 1080 ppi. OLED displays do offer deeper blacks and better contrast that really come through when you are watching content or playing games on this panel. What came as a surprise to me is just how bright the Pixel 6a's display can get. With adaptive brightness turned on, this display can go as high as 788 nits. The display found on the Pixel 6a is an absolute fantastic display for a phone coming in at a price of $450. So my suggestion to you is ignore all the noise and just try out this phone for yourself in person. Performance-wise, at this price point, this phone is going to be hard to beat. The Pixel 6a's got the exact same processor that's found on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, Google's very own tensor chipset. And that to me is what separates the 6a from other devices in the budget category. The Pixel 6a comes with 6GB of RAM and of course Google's tensor chipset. Now this is a fantastic combination of specs when you are looking for performance. I've been playing Call of Duty Mobile on this phone and it's pretty much the only game that I do play on mobile. Nonetheless, the performance has been fantastic. I haven't had any issues with lag or frame drops, but I have noticed that the phone does run unusually hot when you do game for over 40 minutes. It does get to a point where I do need to put my phone down, close the game, and come back to it again. Something to definitely keep an eye on for the full review. All of my favorite features that are found on the Pixel 6 Pro are available on the Pixel 6a, even though the Pixel 6 Pro is twice as expensive. A feature that I use every single day on my Pixel 6 Pro is voice-to-text dictation. There's no other Android phone on the market that does better voice-to-text, and that's all thanks to Google Tensor. What's absolutely mind-boggling to me is you can have all of these features now on a phone that is $450. This is why Google making their own chipset is such a game changer for their devices. The Pixel 6a comes with a 4410 mAh battery, which if you're keeping track at home is about 6% smaller than the battery found on last year's Pixel 5a. But despite this fact, I've been getting some pretty good screen on times, and that's primarily thanks to once again Google Tensor and this phone's impeccable software optimization. Now I said good and not great because I'm only getting around 5 hours of screen on time per day over the past 3 days. To be honest, in that time span, I haven't really done all that much on this phone. The past 3 days, I've watched about 2 or 3 YouTube videos. I've used it to text my friends on Telegram and WhatsApp. I did the casual social media browsing, and when I was playing games like Call of Duty Mobile, I did notice I lost about 25% of my battery health in just 40 minutes. But the thing is, 72 hours is still very early on, and adaptive battery is yet to kick in. We'll check back on the battery in about 2 weeks from now, so stay tuned for the full review. Once adaptive battery does learn my user habits, the battery life should improve. When it comes to charging this phone, there are some downsides. The Pixel 6a does support fast charging speeds of up to 18 watts. No matter which way you try to spin it, that is rather slow, especially when you're talking about an Android device in 2022. And to make things even worse, this phone does not come with wireless charging. I can live with a 60Hz panel, but to not have wireless charging I think was a big miss. I feel like in 2022, almost everyone uses wireless charging at some point or another during their day. Like I use wireless charging all the time in my car when I'm driving, because my car does come with 2 wireless chargers and it's super convenient. These days, I never carry around a USB-C cable. I always know by the time I get home or by the time I drive to work, my phone will be fully charged and ready to go. So not having wireless charging is something that I can't excuse on the Pixel 6a. The Pixel 6a maintains the dual camera setup that was used on the Pixel 5a, but it did take a step back on the number of megapixels found on the ultra-wide angle lens. The 6a does use a 12 megapixel sensor, however that sensor is larger, so it does perform better in low light situations. The main shooter still uses a 12.2 megapixel sensor. This is the same sensor that was found on the Pixel 2 XL. Despite the specs, this phone takes some stellar images. That's because the story with the Pixel 6a series has always been more about photo processing software and computational photography. I'm telling you, the Pixel 6a can hold its own against any other device in the same price category. There is currently no phone on the market right now that's under $500 that's going to beat Google's image processing. I've only had this phone for 72 hours, so I do promise you a more in-depth review is coming. I'll talk about the cameras a little bit more in depth once I really do get a chance to play around with this phone. But for now, after 72 hours with this device, I can confidently tell you that you will not find a $500 phone that offers better performance, better images, and better machine learning features like voice-to-text dictation than the Pixel 6a. Don't worry about all the noise regarding the 60Hz refresh rate. It's not a choppy display, it's completely fine, and you will get used to it after about 2 to 3 days of usage. If you made it till the end of this video, make sure you drop a peach emoji down in the comments below so I know exactly who you guys are. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel because I will be making a day in the life video with the Pixel 6a. I just can't wait to make that video because those are so much fun to make and you guys seem to love those videos. As always, thank you so much for watching and don't forget to flex with your 60Hz panel tech.